Jekyll and Hyde, The Tale of Two Persons. Introduction. In Robert Louis Stevenson's classic novella, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, we are presented with the dual nature of a single man, one a respectable doctor, the other a monstrous figure hiding in plain sight. This story serves as an apt metaphor for the dual legal existence each of us occupies in the modern legal framework. In the American legal system, every individual functions simultaneously as two distinct entities, what can be likened to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. These entities are the natural person with inherent rights derived from common law and natural law, and the legal person, a construct of statutory law, created by the state for purposes of governance, regulation, and legal accountability. This article will explore the legal dichotomy between the natural person and the legal person, how this split arose in American jurisprudence, and the significant implications it has for individual rights, legal obligations, and the interaction with the state. The natural person, Dr. Jekyll. Historically, under common law, the natural person was recognized as a living, breathing human being with unalienable rights. These rights were inherent, meaning they existed independently of any government or legal system. The natural person could travel freely, enter into contracts, own property, and engage in personal affairs without requiring state permission. This figure, like Dr. Jekyll, represents the responsible, autonomous individual living in accordance with natural law principles. The concept of the natural person is deeply embedded in foundational legal documents, such as the Declaration of Independence, which asserts that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights. These rights are typically viewed as pre-existing the state, and the Constitution recognizes and protects them but does not create them. The natural person then operates as an individual under common law, with rights stemming from their inherent humanity. The legal person, Mr. Hyde. The legal person, in contrast, is a construct of statutory law. Created by the state, the legal person is akin to Mr. Hyde, a fictional character that serves a functional, though often problematic, role. This legal fiction is necessary for the efficient regulation of society, allowing the state to engage with individuals in a structured and predictable way. The legal person is issued identifiers like social security numbers, driver's licenses, and taxpayer identification numbers, all mechanisms through which the state creates and tracks the legal persona of its citizens. This legal person is not synonymous with the natural person, but is instead a separate juridical entity created for specific purposes. The legal person can be subject to taxation and licensing requirements, engage in commerce and contract law, be regulated under statutory laws, be sued or held liable for certain actions. While the legal person allows the state to enforce public safety and order, it comes with a significant trade-off. The natural person is often subsumed by the legal fiction, subject to regulatory controls that may not apply to their inherent rights. Just as Mr. Hyde hides behind the facade of Dr. Jekyll, the legal person often overrides the natural person in interactions with the state. The evolution of the legal person. The legal construct of the person has its roots in Roman law, where the term persona referred to the mask worn by actors in theatrical performances. The persona allowed individuals to assume various roles, each with different rights and duties. Over time, this concept was adopted by legal systems to distinguish between the physical person and the legal role that individuals could assume in society. In American jurisprudence, the 14th Amendment played a pivotal role in cementing the concept of the legal person. Initially intended to grant rights to freed slaves, the amendment's broad language was soon applied to corporations, solidifying their status as legal persons under statutory law. This extension of legal personhood beyond natural persons to include corporations, trusts, and other entities highlights the state's power to create and regulate legal fictions. With the rise of bureaucratic governance in the 20th century, the legal person became the primary means through which individuals engaged with the state. Social security, driver's licenses, and taxpayer identification numbers became markers of the legal person, facilitating the state's ability to monitor, regulate, and tax individuals. The conflict between the two persons. The existence of these two personas, the natural person and the legal person, creates a tension in legal theory and practice. At the heart of this tension is the question of sovereignty. Who or what has ultimate control over an individual's actions? The natural person under common law is considered sovereign, with inalienable rights to life, liberty, and property. The legal person, however, is a creation of the state and thus subject to regulation, licensing, and taxation. This conflict is particularly evident in cases where individuals attempt to assert their common law rights against the statutory requirements imposed on their legal person. A prime example is the right to travel. Under common law, the natural person has the inherent right to move freely. However, the state requires the legal person to obtain a driver's license, register vehicles, and comply with traffic regulations. The courts have consistently upheld these statutory requirements, often to the detriment of the natural person's unalienable rights. This conflict is also evident in cases involving taxation. Under common law, the natural person may argue that taxation is a violation of the right to private property. However, the legal person, created by the state and subject to statutory law, is obliged to pay taxes. Courts have generally sided with the state, recognizing the legal person as the taxable entity, regardless of the natural person's inherent rights. Can the natural person escape the legal person? No. One of the pressing questions in modern jurisprudence is whether the natural person can ever disentangle themselves from the legal person. The state's jurisdiction over the legal person is well established, but what happens when an individual attempts to assert their common law rights as a natural person, free from the state's statutory framework? The answer is complex. The legal system in its current form rarely recognizes such a separation. Once the legal person is created, typically at birth through the issuance of a birth certificate and later reinforced by the issuance of a social security number, the state presumes ongoing jurisdiction over that entity. Courts have consistently ruled that statutory law supersedes common law in most interactions between individuals and the state, making it difficult for individuals to successfully assert natural personhood in areas regulated by statutory law. However, legal scholars and various legal thinkers have long argued that individuals should be empowered to assert their natural person rights and operate outside of purely statutory frameworks when appropriate. These views, deeply rooted in common law principles, highlight the distinction between the inherent freedoms of the natural person and the obligations of the legal person created by the state. While challenges have arisen in courts, which often default to the state's statutory authority, understanding and asserting the rights of the natural person remains an important area of legal education and personal choice. Conclusion: empowering through choice and education. The duality of the natural person and the legal person offers a fundamental choice in how individuals engage with the law. Just as Jekyll and Hyde represent two sides of a single individual, we each have the option to understand and choose how to navigate our legal identities, one grounded in natural rights and common law, and the other bound by the statutory systems created by the state. As the legal landscape evolves, the tension between these two personas will remain central to legal discourse. New forms of legal persons are constantly emerging, and it is crucial to understand the differences between the natural person and the legal person to make informed decisions about how to assert one's rights and obligations. Education is the key to navigating these complexities, ensuring that individuals are empowered to engage with the law in ways that best suit their needs and values. Ultimately, we do have a choice. By educating ourselves on both common law rights and statutory obligations, we can learn to balance the freedoms of the natural person with the responsibilities of the legal person. The task before us is to ensure that our natural liberties are not eclipsed by the constructs of the state, and that through education we remain in control of which persona we choose to embody in our legal engagements.
I'm the only sovereign, him give me the key. Him are the highest king and me a follow, you see. Me know about to Babylon, them can't control me. The system can't take me soul, just set me free. Jah the only sovereign, him give me the key. Him are the highest king and me a follow, you see. Me know about to Babylon, them can't control me. The system can't take me soul, just set me free. Them build them laws, the control we mind. Them take rights and blind the mankind. Fiat money and contract them sign, but when I sign nothing, Jah is my guide all the time.